The news day continues here on One News Now. I'm Angela Lagunzad Castro. The number of Chinese military vessels in the West Philippine Sea has tripled. That's according to the Philippine Navy. 9 ships of the People's Liberation Army Navy, 13 China Coast Guard vessels, and 2 Chinese research vessels were seen in the area from August 6 to 12. This is higher compared to the 3 Army Navy ships, 12 CCG vessels, and 1 research vessel from the previous week. The armed forces of the Philippines insisted they are now discouraged by China's heightened aggression against our military in the West Philippine Sea. Meanwhile, the Philippine Coast Guard has started the initial siphoning of the oil leaking from the sunken MT Terra Nova in Mariveles, Bataan. The divers started hot tapping and inserting metal caps into the vessel's valves. Meanwhile, the Justice Department has formed the Bataan Oil Spill Interagency Investigation to probe the sinking of 3 oil tankers in Bataan. Justice Secretary or Undersecretary Raul Vasquez said it's possible that the 3 tankers were involved in oil smuggling.
Hindi natin dinidiscount ng mga probable criminal liabilities dyan kasi nga parte ng investigasyon yan at yun yung instruction namin. Titignan kung meron bang koneksyon ng pagkakaroon ng paglubog ng 3 barko na halos magkakalapit-lapit lang at saka yung mga red flags na nakita namin.
Members of non-profit Angsana Council discussed their economic forecast for the Philippines and the rest of Southeast Asia. Here's an excerpt from their interview on The Big Story.
Protectionism that's coming up in the G7, and we see some of the difficulties of the Chinese economy. But then we see good news in Southeast Asia in general. We see good demographics. We see investment coming into the region that would have gone to China, what we call China +1. And we see the different countries of Southeast Asia competing vigorously for that investment. As a result, we're seeing a more favorable growth environment in Southeast Asia for the next 10 years. Within that, the Philippines has had one of the highest growth rates in the last 10 years. I think a lot of Filipinos feel some angst at the state of their economy, but it's actually been quite good news. And the key is to continue, and if not raise that growth rate slightly over the next 10 years.
Doris, what about you? You might have heard about some of this angst that Charles is talking about, and yet the general outlook for the Philippines seems to be quite positive. What do you think is going right for the economy?
Well, as you know, that the economy is driven a lot by consumption. But I think basically a lot of this recent growth has been due to the spending in infrastructure. And the government's thrust to really continue building infrastructure is going to be something that can help sustain this. So we're quite hopeful that the country can maintain this growth. Actually, the government is also looking at different drivers that will propel not just the existing growth story, but also develop new investment attractiveness for the country, especially to scale jobs. So we're quite hopeful that with the leadership of the president right now, that we might be able to see really good stories for the Philippines to make us an attractive country, notwithstanding the competition that we face with our neighbors.
We'll be back with more stories after the break. Keep it here on One News. You're still watching One News Now. I'm Angela Lagunzad Castro. Let's now take a quick look at today's other headlines. In the Philippine Star, President Bongbong Marcos went on a rewarding spree and splurged our Olympians. Each athlete will be given a 1 million or 1 million pesos from his own pocket, on top of the 1 million pesos from the Philippine Sports Commission. The coaches too reaped the rewards as Marcos promised them 500,000 pesos apiece. And in business world, the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas says there is more room to stay tight. This comes after better than expected gross domestic product growth in the second quarter. The BSP says the latest GDP performance helps the case for keeping rates steady as the risk of a hard landing is lessened. In other news, a severe tropical storm was spotted outside the Philippine area of responsibility. The storm, with an international name Ampil, was last seen almost 2,000 kilometers east-northeast of extreme Luzon or northern Luzon. Pag-asa said Ampil has no effect to our weather and it is on its way to Japan. But don't forget to bring your umbrella today. The southwest monsoon or hanging habagat will still cause localized thunderstorms in Luzon, including Metro Manila. The Agricultural Department dismisses calls for a state of national calamity due to African swine fever. Secretary Francisco Chulorel Jr. says the current ASF situation would not disrupt pork supply or drive up prices. This as the agency moves away from wide-scale lockdowns and instead isolating only those affected farms. The DA adds that the purchase of 10,000 doses of ASF vaccines will help mitigate its impact on the hog industry. Gumawa ang isang grupo ng mga estudyante ng robotic prosthetics na maaaring makatulong sa mga PWD. Para bigyan ng mukha ang Balita Mobile Journal, Merimon Reyes.
Ipinagmamalaki ng isang grupo ng estudyante mula Rizal ang ginawa nilang thesis na maaari raw makatulong sa PWD sector. Hindi biro ang buhay para sa mga kapatid nating kulang ang kamay o paa. Kaya taong 2021 kasagsagan ng pandemya, naisip ng grupong ito ng BS Computer Engineering students mula Rizal ang bumuo ng robotic prosthetics para sa kanilang thesis pagtungtong ng third year bilang kontribusyon sa academe at sa mga kapatid nating amputee.
Nakita namin during that time, nung pandemic po kasi sobrang hirap gumalaw. Kaya naisip namin, parang bigla po namin naisip na how much more po yung mga taong may mga challenges po, no? Especially sa limbs nila, sa dexterity.
Aminado naman ang grupo na hindi sila ang unang gumawa nito sa buong mundo. Pero ang kaibahan daw ng robotic prosthetics nila ay ang abot-kayang presyo.
Ang design po namin is para sa mga below elbow na putol kamay hanggang dito. They compare po sa mga marketplace po, sa mga international. Around mga nasa 500,000 to 1 million yung presyo lang. So, nagkamot nga po kami para gawing affordable yung mga prosthetic hand.
Ang estimated na gastusin nila sa modelong ito ay nasa 30,000 pataas lang at napamura nila yan sa pamamagitan ng 3D printing. Nasa 5 action gestures na rin ang kayang gawin ito tulad ng close, open, point, tip at hook. At ang ikinaganda pa, maaari itong i-customize depende sa kung ano ang kailangan ng kliyente. Nakokontrol kasi ang robotic prosthetic na ito gamit ang muscles. Naging matrabaho man ang proseso ng pagbuo at pag-generate ng codes para sa software nito, sulit daw ang pagod nila. Nasungkit naman nito ang best thesis recognition sa batch nila sa STI College Ortigas, Cainta. Ngayon, may kanya-kanya ng trabaho ang grupo sa industriya ng software at systems. Pero plano raw nilang balikan ang thesis output na ito at mas pagandahin pa upang makapag-abot kamay ng tulong.
Sana magkaroon din po ng parang mga courses na related po doon. Yung nangyari po sa machine learning kasi umusbong na rin po yun. Support din po para, kasi siyempre nakaka-motivate po na magawa ng something na kagaya nung sa amin kung meron pong motivation from others kasi nakaka-boost po talaga yun ng confidence po namin at saka yung drive po.
Sa tulong ng edukasyon at innovation, tunay ngang hindi imposible ang makapagpabago ng buhay ng iba. Oportunidad at puso lang ang kailangan. Mobile Journal, Merimon Reyes po, hatid ang mukha ng balita.
And those are the top stories of the hour. I'm Angela Lagunzad Castro. We are One News.